The coaxial catwalk that ran the length of the transport bay still smelled faintly of popcorn syrup and ionized coolant, our two native perfumes. When the deck keeper thumbed open the pressure doors, I could hear, beneath the hiss of repressurization, the muted chimes of the calliope we always rehearsed to. Hard to believe a battle was 63 minutes away. The ship felt like any other tour day, right down to the posters curling on the bulkhead. The orbital circus, one night only, defying gravity, since 2179. I snagged a handhold and somersaulted once for luck habit from 1,000 mid-air flips above paying crowds, before drifting toward my fighter berth. The hull plates around my Raven were still scabbed with speckles of pale glitter from last week's gala over Borealis Station. Under different lights, that glitter served as stardust. Tonight, it would serve as shrapnel camouflage. On this side of the bay, the crew had already folded back the trapeze lines, swapping silken cords for docking umbilicals and replacing the netting with stacks of gull-wing missiles. Una floated beside me, catching my elbow. In her other hand she held a small tin of grease paint. "For luck," she said. She daubed a silver crescent above my left brow, the same way she did before every show. The reflective pigment was engineered to glow beneath ultraviolet stage lamps. In the cockpit, it would be hidden by my helmet. Still, rituals mattered. "Listen up, sparrows," Cassian's voice shot across the bay, amplified by the public address, but still carrying that ringmaster lilt he'd perfected over years of pitching wonders. "We've received final telemetry. Admiral Gao's picket line is folding. The enemy carrier group will push through the gap in 44 minutes. Our job is to draw their drone cloud away from the Sapphire ring long enough for the defense platforms to spool railguns. You all know the routine. We dazzle. We misdirect. We survive." A hushed cheer rippled through the troop, not the raucous roar we used to give backstage, but a taut breath of shared nerves. We understood what was at stake. The Sapphire Ring was more than a jewel box habitat. It was the axis of every freight slingshot in the outer colonies. If the Commonwealth lost it, supply lines would choke, and with them 6 worlds that could not yet feed themselves. Melo, the youngest of us and still giddy at being both circus flyer and combat pilot, zipped by trailing a streamer of diagnostic cable. "Did you see the projection?" he asked. "They're launching a full spread of Osprey AI darts. 200 of them." Quill, forever laconic, just patted the hilt of the vibro knife strapped to his thigh as if that would matter in vacuum, and winked. "The more, the messier," he murmured. We had practiced for messy. Our special edge was not better thrusters or thicker armor. It was choreography. The same timing that let us loop 8 acrobats through a spinning hoop without clipping elbows could fool target selection algorithms not designed for the sheer improbability of circus motion. Military pilots trained for efficiency, minimal delta V, clean pursuit curves. We trained for spectacle. I sealed my flight suit, pressing the helmet ring until it clicked, then clambered into the Raven's couch. My canopy lowered, and the bay's kaleidoscopic clutter reduced to a tunnel of instrument light. The calliope faded, replaced by the arrhythmic thump of my pulse in the ear cups. "Lyra, Cassian here. You're on Scarlet Axis, slot 3. Copy. Formation tight, lights hot. Break a leg, figuratively this time." I laughed because I had literally broken one on Tethys Station 6 years ago, close to the beginning of all this. The surgeons rebuilt the bone with carbon lattice, and when I came back to the high wire, the audience gasped louder than ever. Fear packaged as wonder sells tickets. In war, fear packaged as wonder could save lives. The launch catapult hurled me into the void, a swift punch that pinned my spine a second longer than any stage G pull we'd rehearsed. Stars flooded the canopy. To port, the Sapphire Ring shone a luminous torus, glittering with city lights. You could slip a finger inside its hollow and feel the tug of 1,000,000 lives. Tonight the ring had gone dark in patches, conserving power for shields. but you could still trace the meridians where habitation blocks curved behind the terminus of day. Ghost curtain in 10. Una called over squad comm. A flicker of violet haze blossomed ahead, the defense frigates seeding chaff clouds and decoy buoys, our digital proscenium. Beyond that haze, the enemy carrier group advanced, its profile angular and cold, like a row of tombstones drifting together. Sensor readouts flagged the first wave. Osprey darts, their drive cones pulsing blue. Each dart carried a kinetic penetrator capable of gutting an apartment complex. Scarlet Axis, Strat Cassian ordered. We aligned along converging trajectories, 5 ravens forming the framework of a phantom pentagram. Our thrusters winked magenta, a pageant shade unauthorized in any Navy manual. The key was to lure the tracking AI into predictive aiming. If it believed we would maintain this pattern, it would commit to pursuit vectors. Then we would break the script in a way no machine would gamble on. Osprey icons bloomed across my canopy, arcing straight toward us. At the same time, the carrier spewed more. 200, like Milo said. They flew in ordered phalanxes, each controlled by a narrow-band beam from the carrier's arrays. The beams adjusted in real time, selecting targets, reassigning groups. But AI beam controllers had limitations. They could not abandon collision avoidance protocols without human override. And in deep fights, the humans usually let the algorithms handle everything. Hold on, Cassian intoned. He used the same tone when cueing a triple cradle catch on stage, a low hum pulsing with dare. My hands tightened on the thruster paddles. The first salvo's range ticked down. 20 kilometers. 15. 10. My threat grid turned crimson. Now! Cassian barked. We cut primary drives and fired attitude thrusters sideways, spinning our craft in violent corkscrews. Simultaneously, we vented dummy propellant-dense plumes of iridescent gas programmed to ignite under trace sunlight, forming billowing spheres around each raven. The sudden drag decelerated us far faster than the AI's pursuit solution allowed. In milliseconds, the Ospreys overshot, thrashing through the gas clouds. Their LiDAR saw the plumes as solid, transfixing heat signatures matched to our fighter hulls. Collision avoidance kicked in, issuing frantic adjustments. Darts veered, collided with siblings, or sheared into shrapnel. I watched 3 such shards ping off my starboard winglet in showers of orange sparks. The circus called that gag the disappearing trapeze. Here, it meant the enemy smashed into her own illusions. 37 drones went dark in the first pass. Data bursts exploded across the squad net. Parameters for the next deception. Quill's gravel drawl floated over comm. Encore. Encore, Cassian confirmed. Yellow Cascade, 180 pitch, negative yaws. Remember, we're juggling knives now. The second drone cluster came in denser formation, learning from the AI's miscalculation. But we had years of stored routines. Our flight computers contained the entire repertoire of the orbital circus transposed into 6-dimensional arcs, every bit as elaborate as our trapeze chain. We kicked into the Yellow Cascade, wide barrel rolls synchronized like cogs. When we reached apogee, we jettisoned ablative armor plates, etched with reflective foil. Spinning free, they caught sunlight and flashed like shooting stars, each one the exact mass and radar cross-section of a Raven cockpit. The AI marked every flash as a kill opportunity and split its targeting lattice. Its beam controllers began overloading with competing priorities. Milo, high on adrenaline, laughed over the link. Look at them chase ghosts. Laughter turned to grit as a pair of darts punched through the cascade, close enough for me to feel their exhaust tremor. I yanked my Raven into a snap roll, screaming past the sharded remains of Quill's plate. The dart tried to match me, but Una cut across its bow, vents blazing teal. The lure of 2 targets in collision path triggered another failsafe in the AI. The dart braked. Too late, it smashed into the second dart behind it, their combined momentum flinging molten fragments that pinwheeled like wayward juggling pins. Splash 2, Una reported, voice calm. A meter-long shard hammered my dorsal plating. Alarm runes flickered. indicating a coolant leak, but I bled the line into vacuum and rerouted. On stage, we learned to smile through rope burns. In the cockpit, you kept fighting through shrapnel rattles. 20 minutes in, over half the enemy drones littered the engagement zone as silent debris. Yet the carrier kept launching. Our maneuver area grew crowded with wreckage, each chunk another potential to fool or to kill us. The AI, forced to navigate a scrapyard, shortened engagement distances and grew more cautious. Exactly what we wanted. Cassian's voice softened. Time for the grand finale, sparrows. My stomach did its usual drop. The finale was always the trick. Cassian hated watching but loved selling. We called it the Mirrorball Gambit. On stage, a central sphere of polished facets reflected spotlight beams, while we somersaulted in concentric rings. In combat, the sphere was the Sapphire ring itself. We angled our ravens toward the Taurus, activating transponders key to the habitat's traffic beacons. Civilian guidelines forbade combat craft from entering the maintenance ductwork that girded the ring's hub, but exemptions existed in wartime, and we had memorized every duct dimension months ago when the Defense Ministry secretly hired us. One by one, we slipped beneath the Taurus' inner rim and threaded into the network of service tunnels. The ravens were slim enough to fit. With thruster nacelles folded in microgravity, the tunnels felt like arteries, full of floating crates and frozen water droplets where the cooling system had cracked. "Carrier just pinged a general override," Milo warned. "They're pulling safeties. Darts will ignore collision rules." "That means desperation," Quill replied. It also meant the last layer of the AI's predictability had just been shed. We'd counted on this. Only a reckless opponent would chase us into the ring, and reckless behavior remained, ironically, more predictable. Once an AI dove past its safeties, it would solve for quickest termination, no matter the collateral. Cassian assigned pairs. Una with me, Quill with Milo, Cassian alone. We burst from the far side of the maintenance loop, hulls grazing the ring's inner hull plating, and spread into a double helix of contrails. Target drones homed in, their drives streaking white plasma. The Sapphire ring's shield grid flickered, not to deflect, but to mirror, turning its segmented panels into a 90-kilometer disco ball. Our ravens flashed strobe beams onto the panels. Sparkling reflections multiplied our images 1,000-fold. To a human eye, it was mesmerizing. To the AI, it was catastrophic. Its last functional routine optical verification swamped beneath returns. It recalculated, repruned, and, with too many targets equidistant, defaulted to area saturation. Darts selected the largest cluster of reflections and burned in, oblivious to the fact that the cluster was the ring itself. "Phase 3, Cassian ordered. We dove. At precisely measured intervals, we fired retrothrusters, decelerating until the remaining drones surged past. Yoon and I corkscrewed beneath the gantry as 3 darts blasted overhead, scooping cratered scars in the ring's plating, trying to reach the mirrored lights. One smashed into the superstructure. Another clipped its wing on a cargo strut and careened sideways, shredding its guidance package. The third, still intact, tore forward until it realized the reflection it chased was not a fighter, but its own image cast from multiple shield panels. Its collision avoidance kicked back to life, sensors overloaded by self-lock. It swerved right into the second damaged dart. Both exploded in a silent blossom of sparks. All across the Taurus, similar detonations blazed. The defenses shook but held. The ring's carbon lattice was built to withstand micrometeor strikes, an order of magnitude worse. Our hulls could not say the same, so we kept low in the tunnel shadows as fragments pinged off plating. I spotted Cassian's Raven above, skating the rim like a tightrope walker on fire. A crippled dart hung to his tail, its targeting camera half-melted yet stubborn. Cassian jettisoned a flare. The dart ignored it and stayed locked. Range closed. "Cassian, brake starboard," I shouted. "Negative," he replied, voice eerily serene. "The audience doesn't clap for brakes." He cut drive, letting the Raven tumble backward. exactly the way he'd tumble from the topmast into the net when the lights dimmed. The pursuing dart, its momentum unchecked, ran past his cockpit and straight into a dangling tank of waste ice, where it vaporized in a burst of crystalline mist. Cassian reignited thrusters, sliding clear through glittering fog. "Encore's over," he breathed. A sudden quiet rolled across the comms. Sensor boards went blank. No more launch signatures. No more drone telemetry. We waited, hardly daring to hope, and command frequency chimed. Admiral Gao herself. "Orbital Circus, this is Sapphire Control. Enemy carrier retreating under escort. You bought us the time we needed. Rail slugs away. Impact at Mark +6. All remaining hostiles will be debris within minutes." Outstanding work. Relief swelled so fierce it hurt. The void outside my canopy shimmered with drifting flares, fractured drones, shards of mirror-bright armor plates, the confetti of war. "Cassian," I said. "Permission to breathe?" "Granted," he said, chuckling, though it quavered. "But keep it theatrical." Quill whistled a circus fanfare, off-pitch, but heartfelt. Milo whooped. Yuna's laughter wound through the channel like ribbon. I let my Raven roll onto its back, giving me an unimpeded view of the Sapphire ring, now re-illuminating section by section, its nightlights blinking alive like spectators waving lighters after an encore. Shuttles launched to scoop survivors and salvage. We were to dock at the forward aid bay, but first, Cassian asked us for one last formation pass. He argued the civilians hiding behind blackout shutters deserved a curtain call, proof that their defenders were human, not just cold machines. Command agreed. So we assembled 5 scarred Ravens and arced along the ring's circumference, smoke trailing from battered stabilizers, coolant steaming like stage fog. Cassian broadcast a calliope over wideband. The tune skittered across vacuum, riding microwave carrier waves into every receiver aboard the Habitat. I imagined frightened families glancing at ceiling monitors and seeing our little dance pilots, acrobats, fools in grease paint, drawing hearts in exhaust plumes against the stellar backdrop. We ended with a starburst, all jets outward, noses to a common center, a silent salute that blossomed into a spinning star. Then Cassian ordered a flourish of colored flares, red, gold, violet, ice moon matching, the grand finale splash we'd perfected years ago on a carnival moon. Admiral Gao came back on comm, her voice husky. "I wish my destroyer captains had half your showmanship." Cassian replied, "Ma'am, we'll teach them to juggle once they're off duty." Docking clamps latched the moment the hatches opened. Techs and medics swarmed us, prying canopies, checking for hypoxia, stitching up minor cuts. But the first to reach me was a little girl no older than 9, hair floating like pollen in the bay's weightless air, father clutching her ankle to keep her from drifting off. She pressed a foil program to my chest, one of those circus posters from the barricaded promenades. My own picture grinned there, silver crescent above the brow, just like tonight. "Were you scared?" she asked. Her voice shook. I thought about the shriek of proximity alarms, the hammering shrapnel. I thought about trusting teammates enough to spin blind through their exhaust plumes. I thought about the AI drones that never felt a flicker of fear and yet still died confused. "Yes," I admitted, "but being scared is just part of the act. You face it, and the audience gives you courage back." She nodded solemnly, as if I'd revealed a secret spell. Then she released the poster, letting it drift, silver glitter from my hull caught in her hair. While medics patched my coolant line, I watched technicians haul crush darts past bay doors, stacking them like twisted elephants on parade. Somewhere outside, rail slugs found their mark, turning the enemy carrier into an expanding cloud of molten scrap. The battle for Sapphire Ring had ended, not with a stand-up slugfest by capital ships, but with a handful of circus flyers reinventing the oldest sleight of hand, misdirection. Night cycles settled over the Habitat, and temporary quarters filled with the hum of relief. Cassian gathered us in the mess, still wearing his flight suit, grease paint smeared across wrinkles. He raised a bulb of rehydrated champagne. "To fear," he said. We echoed, clinking bulbs in midair so droplets scattered like microcomets. "And to wonder," Yuna added. "And the crowd," Milo said. Quill just tapped his vibro knife against the bulb's rim, a bell tone that rippled. Finally, Cassian looked at me. "You'll have to rewrite the playbill, Lyra. Defying gravity since 2179 sounds quaint now. Suggestions?" I considered the day, the masks, the drones, the mirrored panels, the explosions. How about the orbital circus, turning enemy targeting solutions into punchlines since today? Cassian laughed, deep and genuine. "Print it." Beyond the mess portal, the sapphire ring glowed whole again, a jeweled circle against the velvet black. Children would wake tomorrow and run school corridors under its artificial sun, blissfully unaware of how close war had come. Maybe some of them would see our posters and beg their parents for tickets, expecting thrills and cotton candy, never knowing the choreography was born to fool killers. That was fine. The best tricks kept their secrets. We would keep flying, keep tumbling through star-studded hoops, ready to swap spotlight for starlight whenever the call came. Because out there, beyond each ring of safety, lurked machines with perfect aim and no imagination. Against them, our weapon was wonder. And wonder, when timed just right, could make even an unblinking algorithm collide with its own confusion. And the crowd would cheer, never quite sure if they witnessed a miracle or simple physics wearing a glitter cloak. We, the last of the high-wire guardians, would bow, accept the applause, and ready the next impossible routine.